Okay. We are not starting over again. This is it.
Welcome back to the Spliff Screen podcast.
Welcome.
We've, in some ways, regressed in form, as we've usually when a podcast is growing, they implement video later on. And we've done a reverse of that and been like, you know what? No one who's new to the podcast medium needs to be seen.
A lot of my friends who have podcasts, they start out doing video, and so that's what we did. And my lovely friend Rodrigo, he was like producing videos for us, and they looked incredible. But it's so much to set up.
Yeah, it's a lot of setup. It's a lot of me not wanting to be seen in a recording that can be played back at any given point in time. Like, in some ways, it's nice to have a time capsule of that. And in other ways, it's like, oh my God, why did I wear shorts to film the podcast today? It's a lot of that. So for our loyal fan base that have been like, where's the podcast? AKA my mom, basically, we took a hiatus to readjust the form. So we're back and better than ever in audio only, because most of you, I'm sorry, if you're sitting down to like actually watch a podcast,
You're creep.
you're the problem.
You are such a creep.
Because video podcasts are for making an Instagram reel at the end of the day, if you're like Cody Co or something.
Yeah. And that's not what I mean. Shouldn't we listen? Like, I'm not a Luddite when it comes to doing things that other people are doing. That's not the right usage.
Yeah, and I know what that means. I know what you mean by that for sure.
But like, making reels out of our podcast clips, it's definitely
it's putting the cart before the horse.
It's putting the cart before the horse.
So we're readjusting the form. And I'm like talking to no one. We appreciate Spliff Screeners. We appreciate you taking the time with us to breathe and take a break and let us figure out what this podcast can be and transform into. Because I already feel better just schlumped up on Danny's couch holding the microphone in my hand. Notably, if you hear me moving the microphone in my hand, like I said, we are readjusting. We're figuring out a new form. We're figuring out a new way of doing this that I think will make for better content, for a better listening experience. And again, because you're not watching this podcast, you're listening to it in your car or while you clean your room, because that's when people listen to podcasts, or while you're waiting for the laundry to do,
or while you're watching a movie. Yeah.
Put the movie on mute, put this podcast on, and play Subway Surfers all at the same time. That's how media is meant to be consumed these days.
Yeah, podcast is audio, and it should be treated as such. I just don't think like the vertical formatting of videos is very like, it's not gonna last.
It's not cinematic.
It's not gonna last forever. How could it last forever? Like watching things in a vertical rectangle format.
I know. It is concerning in some ways because, nice little segue here. Some of the cinematic shots that we are now missing out on, like those seen in The Ring 2002 starring Naomi Watts, which is the corner piece of today's episode. Mm-hmm. And I said corner piece because to call it the centerpiece would be untrue, because as our two listeners may have garnered, the point of this podcast is more that the movie is a launching point for other discussions.
Sure.
Did you not find The Ring 2002 to be cinematically delicious at times in a way that was almost unexpected? Because when I first watched this movie, I was like, why did that shot like kind of slap? Like, why was that kind of sexy?
What shot?
Like there were so many like actual genuine attempts at like good cinematography in this movie. There's this one shot where it's like it's a wide shot of the sort of like architectural landscape of Seattle, but like it's very geometric, and I was like, holy shit, like that. And like it pans to the different people in different rooms and apartments what they're watching on their own TV, which I really appreciate. The Ring, 2002.
No, it reminded me of Hitchcock's The Room.
I haven't seen that.
It's I think it's called The Room, or no, it's not. It's not The Room. I forget what it's called.
The Apartment?
Or Rear Window. That's what it's called. The Room. The Room is the whatever.
Hold the microphone a little further from your mouth. You are clipping a little bit.
Okay, I'm clipping a little bit. All right, this is better.
Yeah.
All right. Now, yeah, Rear Window kind of reminded me that little section when it kind of pans to everybody's little lives that they're living in their living room, watching whatever they're watching. It's a nod. It's a nod. It's like a little moment to the times. Movies around that period are very interesting in terms of, like, I feel like they were subtly trying to predict the future. Like, you saw that like around the late 90s into the 2000s. Like, it's kind of an interesting time period in terms of where.
Do you mean like with technology specifically?
Or just like in movies, what movies we're kind of seeing in the future? Because it's so interesting to see, like, because it became a like our world right now, which everyone kind of understands, which is, it would be kind of be silly to try to describe what our world is like right now, but we know what it's like right now. But like in the early, like 2002, there was really no understanding of the world and what it would become. And it's interesting to like watch movies like and see, it's like it just looks so like outside of it looks like our time now, but just a little bit dialed back.
Yeah. Well, Naomi Watts, first of all, dresses exactly like how all the Depop girlies do. Like, it has this like desaturated sort of like coming out of 90s grunge kind of aesthetic, where it's not like totally there in terms of like full on grunge style, but it's like you kind of can see the influences. The first time I watched this movie, I was like surely it's not supposed to be a focal point, that I'm like, oh my god, like what a cute top. But like I kept thinking that when I watched this movie. But
she kept wearing tops where like that would be the appropriate response to, like, oh, what a cute top.
She had so many like her outfits in this movie. She would be wearing these little cargo pants and this cute, like, wow, like literally would see at Crossroads in Silver Lake today. Like that would be in the front of the store where they put like the like current trends, and they like upsell them because it's like totally like what's hot right now.
Research dead girls in this top.
Research dead girls in this top. I fucking love this movie. And
it's so green.
It's so green. It's
it's literally the greenest movie I've ever.
Like,
it's greener than Hulk.
The first, like, I literally think color grading that is this distinct and specific, like, whoever decided to do it, like, they deserve. I was gonna say something, but my mom watches this podcast, so I'm not, or listens. Sorry, I forgot that we're not doing video anymore. Like, I think it's so sexy that the colorist decided to make this movie like this. No, like, literally, it looks
Steph's mom, incredible. Please cover your ears.
No, I literally was like, whoever colored this movie, like, deserves
sex.
Sloppy. Like, they just like literally did such a good job. But it's very Twilight.
It's like it literally is as intense as like old silent movies where they tinted the actual film.
I know.
To look like,
it looks so good.
It's tinted so much.
I know. I love it. I don't think you like it based on how you're reacting. I literally love it.
No, I don't have an opinion.
It's emo. It's broody. It's like,
it's broody. Yeah.
I don't know. I just
don't know,
so
like,
much I love about this film. I could talk about it for so long. The anxieties about like growing technology and how we really are ill-equipped, especially in 2002, ill-equipped to understand like where we're heading with it all. Like, I don't think that this movie touches on it as much as original does, which is like Ring, the Japanese movie that was first. That was actually inspired by a novel, and The Ring was kind of like the first American remake to like spawn the J horror genre. Um, so I think that that it's kind of lost in translation with the American remake, but I do think it's like all the little details about the tech of the time and like the copying of the tape and like not knowing the origin of things and sort of like the way media and tech spreads. It's like, yeah, maybe it's not totally all the way there, but I feel like if it was more there, it would end up being this weird like television these days, am I right? Like these kids are just glued to their screens. Like it never actually comes to that. And it easily could fall to that trap, so I'm glad that it doesn't. But
Yeah, kind of yeah, just, TV is a part of the world, and this is there's really no comment on the use of television. People aren't really like that's never brought up as a solution. Like maybe
don't.
people shouldn't watch this tape.
Yeah, wait, I was just about to ask.
Maybe we should bury the tape or something,
Yeah,
so no one ever sees it.
For people unaware of the
Maybe I'm missing
premise of The Ring 2002.
I don't want to describe the.
I just want to give a brief descriptor because
Okay.
someone might not know. I'm not going to.
Well, if you don't know, then don't listen. Just
shut up, Danny. Just let me speak.
Okay.
I'm not going to lay out the entire plot. Just the premise of The Ring is that there is a tape that if you watch the tape, you'll die in 7 days. And it's kind of an urban legend that gets passed around at school. But after like this journalist, Naomi Watts, after her niece dies, she begins to investigate the tape.
Yeah.
And
I'm actually really happy you're doing this because it's.
I know. I'm good at podcasting, Danny. You just have to give me a chance. Would you watch a tape if someone was like, if you watch this tape, you'll die in 7 days? Because I don't think I would, but I could but like people, like 4 kids literally die and then she still watches the tape. She's like, let me just pop this in. I feel like if like one of the early clues that she gets in this movie is that the 4 kids who went on the trip and watched the tape all died of suspicious causes at exactly 10 p.m. And she's like,
in this newspaper.
What could this be? And it's like, I think that that's almost like pretty definitive evidence that like something is absolutely fucked with this tape. So maybe be a little more cautious before you just like pop it into your VCR and keep it at home with your young child and don't even like put it in a lockbox or something.
Yeah, like
and also she immediately, well, she kind of is like, I don't know if you should watch it, but she still lets her man's Noah watch it.
Yeah, here's the thing. Either ghosts exists or they don't. And in this world, spirits exist. So you're telling me this tape is the only evidence of that ever happening? This tape, it's so paranormal that the world they live in shouldn't be normal. It shouldn't be a normal world. It shouldn't be like our world plus this tape has spirits.
Yeah.
She should read between the lines and be like, I am not going to watch this videotape because, as we know, spirits exist in this world, and so I am not. That's clearly what this is.
I mean, that's always the thing, though, is that I don't think that they are aware that spirits exist in this world. The assumption you're making that because this one tape is haunted means all spirits exist, I don't think that's necessary. I think very few horror movies play off the premise that the paranormal is real, because if the paranormal is real, then there's no cause of friction or conflict or stakes. So with like a paranormal presence, usually it's because no one believes in it. Like, well, I just saw like Talk to Me, which is like the newer movie, and a lot of times I think the horror movie assumption is like the kid was on drugs or like something happened that they like had a psychotic break and they like killed themselves, and that's the explanation of the paranormal. That's what it is in The Exorcist too.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, it's like kind of like Marvel though. I mean, you're right. You're right. It totally has the same. You can't. You can't. There would be no stakes if people just were like, "Oh yeah, no, that's the devil. Yeah, the devil exists. Don't go into that house."
They're like, oh, she needs an exorcism? Like, sure, we could
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah,
They're like, oh, yeah, that happens all the time. We got it. No
yeah.
worries.
In this world, there are
We're on it.
exorcisms. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that's why in Marvel, like everyone lives a completely. It's like our lives plus superheroes.
Yeah.
Whereas we know the existence of a man whose name is Aquaman completely changes the way we live our world.
Yeah.
And we can't even imagine what the world would actually be like if superheroes actually existed and we saw them every day.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Like, what's the use of a briefcase if fucking like Spider-Man exists? Like,
Yeah.
how does that? How could you possibly be motivated to work on Wall Street? Still, like Wall Street would cease to exist.
That's true. Yeah. I'm taking improv at UCB right now and I have to go see classes. I want to go see shows so I can, you know, um that's like a part you get free student admission.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I'll go after my class on Tuesday because they have a 10 o'clock whatever." And the show was like improv based on Marvel movies. And I was like, I think I'll skip that.
Yeah, that sounds.
No Tino shade, but I feel like
Who's your
to
teacher?
the point of Marissa.
Marissa. Okay.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
But to the point of what you're saying, like I feel like superhero movies that don't work within the like sort of like that's why I think the original Spider-Mans work so well is because there's that friction there where they're like this masked vigilante and like I mean obviously he's like has
treated like a
superpowers
criminal.
so they're able to be like I don't know I think that point of conflict has to be there, not has to, but I feel like the genres work more successfully when like this other like you can probably hear that plane go by in this anyway
We're at an airport.
yeah, we're at the Burbank airport. But like I don't know, like when you're able to like add the layer of like character versus world in, I feel like it's a lot more successful. I also this is a different point, but do you ever get taken out of a movie because the actors are like so gorgeous and hot that you're like, you are not a journalist.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you're a journalist. Especially the guy in this movie, Noah, who's just like he's like a camera dude.
Yeah.
Like he is an actor. Like you look at that man and you're like, you're an actor. And you're not even
Well, also his place, his apartment is like, yeah, you're a camera guy. Sure.
Yeah,
he lives in this incredibly just open air, just studio, like.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's just a very successful photographer. Anyway, it's just like
that's about as likely as there being spirits.
It's just like they are too hot. Like I watched this movie and
yeah,
I'm
they're
like,
way too hot.
I'm like, you guys should move to Los Angeles and forget about all this. And the kid in this movie is also really
hot.
No, that's not. I just thought about because I started thinking about kid actors, and I'm like, I always wonder like, do little kid actors in horror movies like understand the performance that they're giving?
I don't know. I don't know. I think they navigate it very carefully. Like, did you ever hear that story about the child from The Shining?
No.
Yeah, you've seen The Shining, right?
Of course.
Yes, of course. The child in the movie, Danny, they made him think that they were shooting an adventure film, and so they would play like adventure music during all of his scenes to give him the impression that it was like really upbeat and action adventure-y. And so he had no idea that like it was about a guy who was going to kill his family.
Yeah, I guess it's director to
crazy.
director because like what exactly are you trying to pull out from that actor? But the kid manages to be like, the kid isn't like the son. He manages to be like pretty effectively creepy. Like he does a very good job.
Yeah.
And I think that Like, to me, I was like, oh, this is a kid who like knows what the movie is.
Yeah, a child is like a naturally innocent, is kind of naturally ignorant to the
Yeah,
circumstances, and
but
it's better to keep a child ignorant to those
yeah,
circumstances.
but this movie kind of like plays off the idea that like there's a scene early on where Naomi Watts is looking at the drawings with the teacher that the kid made, and Naomi Watts, I keep saying Naomi Watts, the character's name is Rachel. Um, because she's like, oh, this is how he's dealing with the death of his cousin. She died 3 days ago, and the teacher's like, Rachel, he's been making these drawings for a week, and it's like, oh shit, and it's like, oh, the kid's been possessed for longer, so it kind of plays off that, and there are all these moments early on where he's like acting pretty spooky before he's even seen the tape.
Yeah.
And now that I'm going, now that I'm bringing up this point, they never fully circle back to all of that. Like, this kid might just be like creepy and possessed in his own right, and then he just got tangled up with all this own paranormal
Yeah,
shit.
right.
But
That's it.
also
That's
the first
funny.
time I watched this movie, I was really confused by because he calls his mom Rachel.
Yeah.
Like, he calls his mom by his first name, and I think that's also probably part of like the the original Ring movie, the Japanese horror movie.
The
I think,
Japanese child calls his mom Rachel.
well, no, I think that that movie focuses a lot on like the familial relationships going on,
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit more so than the like American version does. And I think that the American version still has that element there and is like a successful, engaging movie because of that. But I only think that's because that it was like adapted from this Japanese movie. Like, I feel like if this was like fully American, there would be little to no time spent on the character development. Because when I think about like other more recent horror movies, wow, we are filming this at an airport.
That's
Do
so
you
loud.
actually live near an airport?
Yeah.
Oh,
I won't tell you which one though.
okay.
I don't want people to find me.
Sure. I
Just-
I don't think through deductive sources it would be pretty easy to figure out which airport you live near. Are there islands in Seattle?
What?
This okay.
Oh yeah.
This movie, it's so
That's-
funny.
That is kind of interesting. That
This
there's
movie takes place in Seattle. It
yes.
doesn't like I
Maybe
mean
it's off the
filmed in
coast.
yeah, but I don't. Maybe I should not ask that if I'm so stupid when it comes to geography that
You're
like.
right though. There could be.
Well, obviously,
Why would
again,
there?
there's so much stuff that like makes sense, like in the context of like a J horror film. It's like, yeah, it makes sense that they'd be like go off the mainland to go to this island where like blah 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 happens. But then they do that when they're like in America, and you're like, but where are you guys? Like, I don't think I understand. Also, the whole horses thing, that's also not in the J horror film. I'm like, where'd you guys? How did you decide to bring horses into all this?
I don't like the movie didn't even strike me as like an adapt. I had no idea it was an adaptation. That gives tells you how much research I did before doing this.
Hey, that's okay.
But I had no idea, and then it didn't even strike me as like off in any way. So they
Yeah.
concealed it well.
I have not seen the original. It's been on my list of movies I want to watch for a really long time because I like when I was like, oh, I should watch The Ring because I love horror movies. I was like, that's a movie that's pretty well known in terms of like popular horror movies. I was like, oh, I should watch it. And I was honestly surprised by how much I liked it because I was kind of grouping it into like I had thought that it was like a modern horror movie like in the vein of like The Conjuring or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like very pleasantly surprised that it was a little more like thriller, what's going on, adjacent more so than like a jump scare thing. Movies that rely too much on jump scares,
Oh, I hate it.
modern horror movies. I know. I mean, jump scares can be very effective and well done. Like, have you seen Mulholland Drive?
Yeah,
The jump scare in that movie
it's frightening.
it's the best jump scare of all time, and it's incredibly well done. Naomi Watts is also in that movie. I really love Naomi Watts, I will say. She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
She does an incredible job in this movie. The planes.
It's okay.
The horse
The horse
The
scene,
horses killing themselves.
the horse scene in the movie was I paused. I had to go lie down after that scene because I was like,
Yeah.
where is this movie going? The fuck I like before this movie, like in culture, like I did not think I'd be watching a horse just running loose on a ferry
And
in the
jumping
harbor
off.
and jumping and killing himself in
Yeah.
the in the in the propellers of the. I'm like, what am I watching?
There's a
This,
lot of like, I think this is why I like this movie a lot, is because there's genuinely not straight up horrifying things, but like there's the moment when she like picks the fly like off the screen, and then like her nose starts bleeding, and all these like little kind of eerie references to the tape, and the way that the like cinematographer or the DP like did everything. Like I think the idea of like what's scary in a horror movie is so debatable, and everyone has a different understanding of what counts as scary. And I don't necessarily think that this movie is like genuinely scary, like especially at the end when like the Samara climbs out of the well and like kills, like she does not look scary at all. Like the end of this movie,
yeah,
she doesn't like like the CGI whatever, it just doesn't totally work. But I think the movie is still incredible. So even though I think that this is not really all that scary of a movie, I think the like creepy weird story and like how it's built and how it's filmed and how it looks like makes it a great film, even though I would not be like, yeah, this movie's scary.
yeah. It didn't really scare me that like
Yeah.
all that much.
It's just, it's weird to think that like I don't think how scary a horror movie is. Like I feel like horror movie discussion becomes centered around like, oh, how scary is the movie? And I'm like, all of my favorite horror movies aren't actually scary. I don't love them because I'm scared. I love them because I think they're so well made and well crafted and the story is so good. But maybe that's a me thing. Maybe that's just, I shouldn't project my own thoughts of movie making and claim them to be correct. But
Hey, you gotta, if you have a podcast, you
gotta make some
really.
stances. Actually, I will say the scariest moment of the movie is when they think they like solved it and they're like, she just needed help. She just wanted to be heard.
That's where I thought it was going the whole
And
movie.
then the son is like, why'd you help her? You weren't supposed to help her. Like when I first was, I was like, oh my God. I was
Yeah.
like, like that is a full stop. Like, I mean, it is like you kind of see it coming, but if you're kind of just like living in the moment of the movie without being like, there's still 10 minutes left, wonder where this is gonna go. If you're just kind of like, like let's see where, let's watch them go on this journey and unravel the mystery. It's like it is a real grinding halt of like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was a cool moment. That was like
Mm-hmm.
that was really interesting to see because I remember when that moment where they saved her and then I paused it and it was like 20 minutes left and I was like, what the fuck is gonna happen?
It's like the longest third
I
act
like
ever.
that. I like the fact that in this film there does exist a thing called absolute evil and not to I don't I think life's just too varied to make any broad generalizations about what things are like right now, but I feel like people are generally or audiences are interpreted as wanting like even like Satan to be given the benefit of the doubt. Like Satan, no, Satan's just confused and just doesn't found love. Meanwhile, like I like the idea that sometimes in some stories there does exist an absolute evil that actually should just be either left alone or defeated or
The
quelled,
evil
but
has been defeated.
yeah,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
not set free, because set free, I mean,
she
the
just
producers
wanted
wanted
to be
it to be
heard.
set free because that means cha-ching sequels.
Trying. Yeah, I. Yeah, it's interesting because like,
That'd be incredible. That's why producers were like, no, have her. She's still evil.
don't. Don't worry about it.
She can't be
Yeah.
saved.
She can't be saved. Well, it would have been like a pretty unsatisfying ending if it was like, she just wanted to be free. Take her out of the well and bury her body. It would just be a completely different movie.
It's like, all right, don't take me out of this well and then bury me in the cold earth. Yeah, that's really, really respectful.
Yeah.
It's
Dude,
like,
do you think that it's funny because the tape itself, there's literally a line in the movie where Noah's like, yeah, that looked like a student film. And I'm so glad that line is there, because that's totally what you think when you first watch it. You're like, okay, someone who took literally like Intro to Cinema 1 made this.
Someone
tape.
who has no idea who they are and what their vision is.
Yeah,
This is the
like,
type of thing they make.
Maggots,
CGI worm,
a ladder that falls over.
I love, my favorite is upside down chair spinning rapidly. It just looks scary.
There was this moment where it's like the maggots crawling around, and then it like flips to black and white. And if you're like high and looking at it, or like maybe a little stupid, it kind of looks like human bodies like all like squirming around. And I for a split second was like, whoa, and then I like looked closer and I was like, I don't think that's what that is.
I
think that's just pure coincidence.
Those are maggots.
Yeah. There's also she sees the lighthouse in one part of the tape, and then is able to like, and then she's like doing her research, and she pulls out like just like this big book of all lighthouses and like is able to find the location.
Lighthouses.
Like, let me cross-reference. Like she literally looks at like the big book of lighthouses, and like that's like the clue she takes. There's a lot of the clues in this movie like that she's looking up. She's like, give me the time of death. I need to know the time of death. And she hears it on the phone. She goes, okay. And then you see that she wrote down like the other kids' names and put like 10 p.m., 10 p.m., 10 p.m. And then there's like her niece's name, question mark. And then she writes in red, 10 p.m. exclamation. I was like, and then over it, she says, like 10 p.m.
How easy do we have to make it on the audience?
I know. There is a lot of moments where I'm like, when it's voiceover or like narration or whatever the fuck, I'm like, okay, yeah, they added that in post because they're like, these fucking dumb ass Americans need their handheld, which like fair, you know. It was a sleeper hit, this movie. It was incredibly well received. 70 something % on Rotten Tomatoes, which I feel is low. I honestly really enjoyed this film.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like oh yeah, going back to the student film thing, it kind of raises an interesting question. Is that like the movie being kind of self-aware? Like, we know this tape looks like a piece of shit film, and like that's what the dude is like commenting. He's like, what, this is a joke. So is it supposed to be a really, like, is the tape part supposed to look like shit? But then like a demon shot it.
A demon child
shot this. So like, is that
it's
to
so
say
funny
like,
to think of Samara like out there like,
okay, let's do another one. That was really great.
It's like, let's get some coverage on this shot. Room tone.
I'm just shooting B-roll.
I'm just getting some room tone, guys. Hold on.
She's editing on Final Cut Pro. Later that day, she has like a laptop out. She's like, I'm gonna submit this to some festivals.
Yeah.
And then it didn't get accepted, and she's like, I'm gonna kill people with this.
Like, she was normal before, but like they were like, this tape's kind of corny, and she was like, I'll fucking show all of you.
I will show you the wrath.
Yeah. I mean,
it has that energy. It's
does.
Like, your film, if it doesn't do well, you really just want it to kill everyone who sees it.
Oh my god. It is. I guess it kind of builds into the part where like it's like this legend that gets passed along between high schoolers to be like, you gotta get to watch the tape, you'll die in 7 days. But I gotta say, this is, again, I know we already talked about this, but like, when a movie has an urban legend and it turns out the urban legend is true, it's like, wouldn't you guys have like figured that out by now? Like, people are dying and no one's put it together yet.
Well, yeah, like 4 teenagers die like
at exactly
on the same
10 p.m.
And like the news story is like
what? she had a heart attack. There's also a moment when like the
Also, like when the mother finds her and she's in the closet, and she looks like that,
yeah
and they're like, it was her heart.
yeah
Yeah, we all know that that's what happens when you have a heart attack. Is that you just
yeah, and that part is scary. But there is a part where the mom's like, "What kind of 16-year-old's heart just stops out of nowhere?" And I'm like, that does happen. I think
It
it's that her
occurs.
face looks fucking insane. She's like,
she saw.
her heart just stops out of nowhere. That doesn't happen to a 16-year-old. It's like, I mean, actually, yeah, it does. But like that fucking like her eyes are like pulling out of her own skull, and she's like turned gray,
Yeah.
and she's like, but her heart stops. Like that doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it doesn't. A lot of things aren't adding up. Like, why are you focusing on the cause of death here? Like, have you seen her face?
It's such a tricky like emotional range to ask of that mother, like the actress. It's
I
like
know.
your daughter just died, but you're also inquisitive at her funeral
You-
enough to ask her
A
aunt,
journalist.
a journalist, to look into it. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a strange, like you like, it's just such a strange thing to ask of like an actor.
God, there's so much to love
Very
about
strange.
this movie.
It's kind of like, it's a little, which is it's fine, but like it's a little on the dumb side. Like
The movie's
the
dumb.
way it works, the way it moves, and the way
Yeah.
the logic of it. Like we're barely kind of talking about it. Like we're
Are
we're
you nervous
running.
to broach the subject because you know I love this movie?
No. I think I think you agree. I think
No,
we're
I
on the
do.
same page.
I mean,
here. But
again, like the thing about the
but, like,
clues, like
we're-
with the 10 p.m. thing, I'm like, okay, we can be a little,
It's a little less.
but it's
But
also
I was gonna
like
s- I was
I think
gonna
it's
say-
self-aware in that. Like I think it's
Yeah.
maybe it's not. I don't know.
What do you mean? Oh, it's like it's self-aware. I could be.
I think that there's some elements of melodrama that make me feel like they have to know a little bit. Like there's the moment where Rachel calls Noah to be like, "Hey, watched the tape," and he's like, "Who watched the tape?" And she goes, "Our son," because they haven't like explicitly been like that's their
doesn't-
kid.
yeah.
They like really build you up to it, and I was like that's a moment where the audience gets to be like, "Oh shit," It's not like you're not genuinely like, "Whoa."
She doesn't call him and immediately tell him our son watched the tape.
Yeah.
She's like, he watched it.
No, I think the filmmakers understand. Like, I think any horror and anything that's like really far into one genre and like requires a certain level of suspension of disbelief, like needs to or like has the benefit of utilizing that kind of tool of like real people aren't like this.
Well, also like scaring people, it continues to be probably the most evasive genre that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you really ask like what the fuck actually scares people, when you start to like, and then when you make a movie like this, people are like, it's not scary. What the fuck is scary?
Yeah, exactly.
What actually would be something terrifying to watch? I don't know. Like, it's I get very uncomfortable when I watch movies, and it brings me like despair. And it's that usually like whenever like a loved one dies, or it's like if in a movie like the emotions get a little too real, like the situations get a little too real, then it's like that's bad, because it's like you're now putting the audience, you're putting them in an empathetic mode, where like they can't just passively watch the characters experience what they experience and be affected by it.
Yeah,
they're now like they're almost too emotionally
Just
involved with
but,
it.
but don't you
and-
want your audience to be emotionally involved when you watch a movie? Like if someone's just watching a movie passively, then they're like, "Duh."
No, I mean like you do want them to be emotionally involved, but like there comes a point where you start to feel bad for the characters, and you don't
Oh,
just
yeah.
you almost like don't even want the movie to be happening to them anymore. You're like, please just let these characters go.
Yeah, that's how I feel like in certain horror movies when like this happens in like The Invisible Man, or like in Talk to Me, which is the new movie that just came out, the A24 horror movie, when like the protagonist or someone who you're supposed to be rooting for like has some sort of like third act descent into madness, or some sort of like accidental death occurs where like they have to like protect themselves. I can now only think about the subsequent murder trial that will have to go down.
Yeah.
I can't get invested into the story anymore. I was like, well, now you, the protagonist, killed someone. I can't like, I'm not able to focus any, not even in a like, don't like that was wrong. Like, because obviously, you know, my official podcast take, murder is bad. Okay, don't take it out of context.
Don't take it out.
But then that's all I can think about. I'm like,
Your mom takes it out of context.
she's like, Steph, why are you pro murder? Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I just mean like then I'm not able to be like, oh yeah, like, okay, yeah, sometimes you have to kill the bad guy in self-defense. I'm more just like, oh my god, is a jury gonna believe that you killed them in self-defense? Like, I'm no longer able to focus. That's what takes me out of a movie.
I love like, in movies when you think about like the bureaucratic mess that everyone's creating with their actions, because that's a very real way. Like, it's a joke, but like it's such a real way of processing what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Like, when you see something, like you see a car accident, or you just look at somebody else's situation in life and you're like, I don't even know how I would handle that from a logistical standpoint.
I'm like, you're going to have to get insurance involved.
Like, my friend got into a car accident 2 months ago, and everyone was fine. But like, I was paralyzed just thinking about what steps you take to get a new car.
I know.
And he handled it like a trooper, but like, that's a fucking crazy.
Sometimes it's more like to me it's like worrying about, like, when I'm worried about like my like a car getting towed or something, it's less about like, oh, it would be annoying to have my ar be towed. I'm like, oh, then I have to like get it back. I'm like, figure it out.
Here's the thing though, my car
being alive is a logistical nightmare.
It really is. Here's the thing that I will say, and what gives me hope, is that when you find yourself in the middle of something like that, it kind of, something switches in your brain, and you kind of just enter this primordial survival mode thing where you're like, all right, here we go, and you start just facing it.
I honestly,
that's what happened to me when I got
honestly
my car
very
towed.
much. I have a very, so, you know, like, it's described as like fight or flight. Like, what's the instinct that kicks in for you? And I guess this is sort of like pseudo psych. I don't know how real it is, how true it is when applied to humans in psychology, or if it's more just like a pop psychology thing that people talk about, like your fight or flight response as a human being. But some people say like fight, flight, or freeze, where like you just don't know what to do, so you're just like completely freeze up and like are unable to function in any way.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm a bit of a freeze girl myself. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, flight, fight, or freeze, and I'm freeze all the way. I don't know. I just like completely like, I'm like, what? Like, that's how, if I watched a tape and was like, okay, solve this mystery in 7 days or you'll die, I'd be like,
yeah, see, that, like, that's a situation.
I would not fight or flight. I would just be like, I guess like I could watch Breaking Bad finally. That's enough. A week is enough time to get that done.
So what you would do is you go into bucket list mode.
Bucket list mode?
You're Naomi Watts in this movie. You're told you have 7 days. You're like, time to go skydiving.
Let me, but not even that, because I would be frozen by fear. So I'd be like, guess I'll just snuggle up and hunker down and see where it goes.
What if you froze for like 6 days and then you went skydiving, and that's kind of took you
where
out of
I
freeze? No, that's like takes you out of freeze mode.
And then I'm like, oh fuck, but I ran out of time. it's like I get into freeze mode, but then I remember that there's so much more life to live, and I'm finally motivated to like try and figure it out. But then I like I get a phone call mid-air on my cell, and I'm like, what's up?
You hear the ringing, like, even. Oh, the ring. Is that why it's called that?
So yeah, it's a bit of a double entendre.
Well,
the ring of the telephone and the ring of the well.
Oh yeah,
it's both.
Oh, it's both.
Yep.
Okay.
And you would have known that if you read the Wikipedia as I did prior to.
Yeah,
I like that.
I
I
don't
like
doing
actually
that.
really enjoy that you don't do any research at all, because I, by comparison, seem way more knowledgeable just because I skimmed the wiki.
I think two people who researched is too many. You need one person who
Yeah.
just did their homework and one person to
Mhm.
facilitate it.
And I always do my homework. And to be so clear, I will only be reading the wiki. So going forward,
I know,
that's
yeah,
another part about
that's the
this.
extent of the research.
The Spliff Screen podcasters. I know that some of you said that you enjoyed the research portions, but I literally simply do not have the time. So just do what you can with my guesses and my brief skimmings.
This
I
is
guess
like
but part of the
kinda-
reason. Oh, sorry, you go.
It's kind of interesting that like the movie even looks the way it does. Like, it looks very, very modern too. Something also
Because Naomi Watts' outfits are so good.
yeah, that could be it. Just
She looks great. I just also really like Naomi Watts. I think she's really hot.
yeah.
I was gonna say, like, the reason why I think, I mean, she is a journalist, so she's trying to figure it out, but she also, like, her son watches it and she wants to protect her son. What a brilliant, not brilliant, it's kind of rudimentary, but like a great way to raise the stakes.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, you can figure it out for yourself to keep yourself alive, but like you got to help your son too. It's very effective. And especially in terms of where they place that in the movie, where he watches that, it's kind of like a really effective ramp up.
It really does prove the point that like a parent will love their child no matter how fucking inhuman they are, like this little boy is.
Yeah, but also
From the outside, I have no love for this little boy. I'm like, good, he watched the tape. I thought he already watched it. That's what made me
he was
wanna,
acting very creepy the whole time.
well, that's what made me keep watching the movie. I was like, I get to watch this little boy fucking die at the end of it. That's gonna be great. And then at the end, I'm like, wait,
You saved her?
now
You weren't supposed to save her.
it's like, oh yeah, so when were you gonna tell me that? Like, what the fuck?
There's also
This kid is like either 37 or he's 7 years old.
Yeah, he is an old soul.
They make children like the connection to the paranormal world.
Oh yeah, in a lot of movies. Because there's something, because a little kid can be like,
but kids aren't
be
really
like,
that connected to things.
No, but I think it's because it's the same with older people. Like, I think the reason why young people and old people can take on roles in horror movies in a like an adult being creepy doesn't work in the same way, because you're like, okay, this, like, let's take you to the psychiatrist because something is off.
Yeah.
But like when it's like a child or an older person, it's like, oh, like an older person would be like, grandma, like she's things get kooky with age. And like a young kid, you're like, oh, your imagination just runs wild. So like with an adult, those things don't work, but a kid can be like, she told me that she doesn't like the barn, and it's like, okay, sure.
Typically the child's just lying through their teeth because they just want attention.
Yeah.
And
don't we all?
Yeah, don't we all?
With an adult, you couldn't put up with that. There is, okay, this was reminding me of, okay, so there's a part where Rachel goes to visit the doctor on the island to talk about Samara and her mother. And the doctor says, like, oh, I recommended them to the hospital on the main ward. And she basically is like, they wanted a kid so bad, and that's how they adopted Samara. But things got really bad after they adopted her. And then they say, like, and she gives the explanation, like, some parents, I don't remember exactly how it goes down, but basically the implication is that Samara is just like a child with special needs. And that's how Rachel interprets it and moves forward in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's why she's like, she just wanted to be heard. Like, she says to Noah, she's like, sometimes kids, they scream and they cry and they draw pictures. And then the last 10 minutes of the movie is, and sometimes they're actually the devil.
Yeah.
But like the brief
Sometimes
moment when you're like,
they deserve
is this
it.
a metaphor for accepting your child with special needs? And then the movie's like, nah, stop. We're not going that way. That's not actually what this
Oh,
is
you're
about.
right. That's totally what it is.
It's briefly a moment where it's supposed to be about like accepting your child and still remaining a good parent in the adversity of your kid being a little different, because that's why
Yeah.
that's probably
Well, was
a
it-
huge reason why her kid is like has some sort of traits where you're like, that's not how I would normally expect a kid to act.
What was the name of that special needs kid that was there in that scene that was like swinging?
I
What
don't
was his name?
remember.
Brewster?
Dalton?
Drake? Droston?
Is there a reason why we're guessing this?
Not really, but like, I think he was put there as like, this is special needs.
Well, no,
Not Samara.
But they-
Samara's evil. He has special
No.
needs.
It is kind of a little off. Like it's
That's not what they
didn't-
did, but that's kind of a
no,
funny
but-
way to look. That's just a funny way of looking
I
at it.
didn't pick up on it as much the first time I watched this movie, but like it's definitely there, and it's
Yeah.
weird that they kind of touch on it in a way that honestly could be like she does have that line that's like sweet and genuine, and like that is a good perspective to have. Like if you're a parent, like you can't only love your child on the condition that they're a normal child, because like that's, you can't become a parent and like have that expectation. And that's a beautiful take to have. And then they're like, no, but this is still a horror movie, so fuck that message.
Well, that lady in the robe, that's who she is in the movie. She's just wearing a robe. She's like, ever since that child has left, this community
Has gotten better.
Has gotten better.
And Rachel's
they
like,
go
yeah, whatever.
But they go to this wide shot, and it objectively looks like the saddest place on earth. It's so, again, it's just so green, and anyway. But that's she's like, she's not like, hey, might want to investigate. These people definitely murdered their child. She's like, oh no, this little girl was evil.
She was just straight up evil. Sometimes that's the truth. Sometimes a kid is not actually deserving and accepting of our love. Sometimes they're just a fucking piece of shit evil being.
In the real world, the devil does not possess little children, so that's never a factor.
That is true.
That is never a factor.
That's never something. Yeah. Well, that's something that people will say, like, that kid is like a devil child. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. People in childcare will be like, that kid is the devil.
Yeah.
But then they're not really the devil.
They could be.
I'm looking at some of my notes to see if there's anything that I.
Oh yeah, I love
Absolutely.
how scary they made the DreamWorks intro in the beginning.
Oh,
that
something
to me, like, see, that's silly. Don't do
that's
that.
Goofy. That's cute.
No, don't do that. Don't make it all stormy and rain. I hate when they like adjust the production company's
This is the
intros
weirdest
according to the
fucking take
genre
in
that
Hill
they're
to Die
doing.
on. Why would you want? But like, how weird would it be if they had like just like the typical logo where it's like gleaming and wonderful and blue skies, and then they were like harsh cut to like bleak Seattle. I think it's fine.
I don't
think
know.
you're just making that point just to be contrarian.
No, I'm not. No, I think it's very stupid and cheap.
Okay, fine. You're allowed to have that take. Even though
Thank you for giving me permission.
yeah, you're welcome. I think that if you actually saw a movie that did that, where it was like this dark, dreary movie, and they had the normal logo, you would feel like it just would feel a little discordant.
You don't need to do that though. People already like, and you know what? I'm gonna sound like
Don't you want to be?
I'm gonna sound
immersed?
like such an asshole for saying this, but
Yeah.
people, the audience accepts, like in their head they separate when the production company intros like that ends and the actual movie begins. You don't actually need to have a precursor to the movie in terms of tone. You do that with a black screen. It's like a blank slate. Here
I
now
guess so.
now here's stormy Seattle.
But also, I think
How many times
didn't
have
you
you
tell me that you were watching this on your phone in your car?
I was just kidding.
Oh, well, okay, good joke, Danny.
I was just
Well,
lying.
don't you? I appreciate. Okay, take this in the context of you're watching this in like a crowded movie theater on a Friday night. Like,
Yeah.
I appreciate the level of immersion where you're like sinking in the segue into the movie. It's like you get your Nicole Kidman AMC ad, it switches out of that into like this ramp up to the film. I, for one, love cinema and movie going, so I
Oh
actually
yeah,
like
and
it.
I clearly
So what
don't.
about that, Danny?
I clearly don't.
What about that?
No, I again, I'll say like I think that that you don't need to adjust the aesthetic of the production company's intros because they did the same thing with Harry Potter. Like, oh, now the
Yeah.
title's all stormy and metallic.
Yeah, and
now
all the Harry Potter adults will. I've seen this circulate like the internet and Twitter sometimes where it's like screen caps from every Warner
Yeah.
Bros. Intro of Harry Potter. Look how it gets progressively darker, and I'm like, can you
Yes.
guys fucking get a life?
This shouldn't be
please?
part of the theory
This
of
shouldn't-
Harry
We
Potter.
don't give a fuck. Okay, I only agree with you because of that context you gave. However, I will.
I don't like. Here's
I will
here's
take
another
the stance
take.
of whimsy once more and say that
Yes.
any level of immersion and any level of sort of like bringing us into the world, I'm here for, because I love the journey that we get to go on from start to finish.
Can I see if
but
you
also fucking credit scenes.
Can I see if you agree? You
Okay.
might. I think we might also disagree on this point.
Okay.
And this is absolute. I hate in any movie where the title is interacted with in any way by the characters, or like you disappear behind a wall, and so does the title. The title becomes like it's like printed on a poster that you then like sweep across, like or like the credits are printed words on,
I know what you're saying.
or like they're CGI little things. And
Would you say that extends to all, even like all credits at the beginning?
yeah, I think credits
What about
should just
in
be
Almost Famous, where it's like he's like writing the names of the actors and all that? Have you seen that movie?
I'm sure there's like tasteful ways to do something,
Yeah.
but I disagree with the practice in general because I think the credits are outside the movie. I just fundamentally think that the world of the whatever
The world
is,
of the film should be contained to the film.
yeah, absolutely. If you're bringing the credits into it, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? People don't care. People
Yeah.
love it. People accept it. It's suspension of disbelief and everything. But like, it's one of those things where it might just cheapen the movie the tiniest bit.
I don't know. I think that that's like a level of meta that is dependent on the movie itself. Like sometimes you're right. It's like it's like the filmmaker clearly thought like this would look cool more so than like it building anything in the movie. I think it's kind of like a case to case basis almost. And I'm not really one to make case to case basis arguments because I love to make sweeping generalizations. But I also think like it's also like with narration. Like I was talking about this recently about how like voiceover and narration usually ends up being like, or not usually, but like can very quickly become like a cheap narrative tool.
Yes.
For like that, like you're kind of like you could have thought of a better way to do that. But then I also think there's like definitely plenty of instances where it like is utilized well and like builds the world and like can be a helpful tool that like services the storytelling. And it doesn't mean it's bad. I just feel like you have to be like you have to earn it to do it.
Yeah. The one example is the what's an example of that? Do you think? Do you have
of like earning narration?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is so stupid because the only thing that comes to mind for me is Megamind.
Oh my god. Please.
And How to Train Your Dragon also, which I haven't seen but have heard incredible things about. But that's also an example. Like it's animated movies for children. So narration fits in the context of the genre and services it and makes sense in a way. Like in Megamind, when he's like, he literally does like, that's me falling through the sky. I bet you're wondering how I got myself in that situation. And it's voiced by Will Ferrell, and you're like, that's goofy and silly and dumb. And like this movie is supposed to be silly and goofy and dumb, so it's fine.
But like a serious movie
doesn't.
I like when the voice is happening in the movie, like people are speaking, like they're having a conversation, but it cuts away from their conversation, and now you're watching a whole other scene, but you're still listening to their conversation
Yeah.
over. I think that's a very cool.
It's a cool audio technique.
That's an interesting way of doing voiceover. That's not like once upon a time. It's not once upon a timey. It's like it's actually a function of the storytelling. It's like
But yeah, and there's sometimes when you can see it's not even voiceover. It's more like, okay, wait, this is not voiceover, but it's on the topic of how do you feel about characters speaking out loud to themselves?
to themselves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like when she's like
sometimes
10
definitely
p.m.
used as like a
Well, when I was first starting to write my own scripts and stuff, I would be like, oh, like no one talks to themselves. Like like it's they never have a character talk to themselves. And then I'm like, wait a second, people actually literally do talk to themselves all the time. Like a lot of times you keep your thoughts in your head.
Sure.
But like it's not actually that crazy to think someone would be like saying something out loud to themselves. Like it's not automatically bad.
No.
But I do think in this movie when she goes 10 p.m. that's one where I'm like, you literally wrote it down 4 times. We saw that you wrote it 4 times, and one of those times it was in red ink. You didn't need to also say it out loud. But
yeah, see, that's like when a movie's slipped so much into like doing movie things that then stuff like that happens where it's just like you don't need to do it like to this level. It's like it's trying to do movie things. Some movies are trying to do movie things.
Do you think that this movie did that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
it did it. It does, and it does it in the tiniest way, and that doesn't make it a bad movie because I mean that's you just have to accept that some movies are just going to do that, and that's fine. And it's not inherently a bad thing. Like it makes it like I like the fact that movies are kind of like self-referencing.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
In a certain way, like I like that on a certain level.
I'm trying to see like
not every movie has to be like
well, I think you reach a stage as someone who like goes to see a lot of movies and watches a lot of movies. Just for context, I just wanted to look it up on Letterboxd, which I got in like 2017 or something like that. I have since logged almost 750 movies.
Wow.
Some of those are backlogs. But I'd say like a few years ago where I was more hypercritical of like movies that rely on certain like tropes of storytelling, and I'd be like blah blah blah. And something I learned in college and something I've learned as I keep watching movies all the time is that like it's more about like it's not that it's cheap or that filmmakers aren't original or creative. It's just that like it's a medium that like people know how it works, and like you work around the medium and like you work in it, and it's not about like not lacking your own creative tools to make it yourself. It's about like utilizing what works and what's known and like what the audience expects from what they're about to watch. Like I don't know, like I feel like now like when I see a movie where I'm like how creative or how original was that movie, like I find myself caring less and less and less about originality in movies, or like if it's like relying too much on these certain things, and more just like enjoying it as like someone is making a movie. Like they're not trying to make this like avant-garde or like this new genre bending thing more often than not. They're like working within this tried and true medium that's been around and has been like, you know, I don't care that much about like innovation. Like I want like a good story.
Yeah.
And a good film. Yeah. And I think knowing you're a movie and making a movie is not a bad thing.
Not at all.
I don't know if that made any sense.
Made perfect sense.
That was me on my soapbox. I also
think that's a very insightful thing to.
It also just makes seeing movies so more fun. Like I saw Talk to Me, and I really liked when I first saw it, and the people I went with the first time really liked it, and then I saw it a second time, and the person I went with that time thought it was like not that original, and I thought about it, and I was like, I almost didn't like notice that the first time I watched it, or care the first time I watched it, because I actually was like enjoying that I saw so much I recognized from other things. Like there's this moment in Talk to Me where this like creepy old lady sucks on someone's toes, which is like
What?
yeah, scary, right? And
See, that's my
there's this
favorite
movie,
trope in movies.
Gerald's Game, where a creepy old man sucks on this woman's toes. Toe sucking.
So I think we're circulating Steph's movie preferences.
The appearance of toe sucking in horror films is notable. And like, I don't see that as a sign of someone come up with something more creative than toe sucking being creepy, and more just like, how cool is it that that's like can be a convention of the genre that you can recognize more than once.
Yeah.
I don't know, like or it's like, oh, like this movie like is doing paranormal shit that you would have seen in Hereditary or blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, but it's I don't see how that's, I don't necessarily see that as like inherently bad.
Yeah, it's like it's, I mean, some might say it's a necessity in order to build some sort of consensus on like not even like what's good or bad or what's interesting and not interesting. It's just it's good to just see what other people are seeing and how they're seeing it and what they're just in, and like some like what things stick to the aesthetic of the time, like the types of things that are used over and over again. It's so interesting, like in a sociological way.
Yeah.
And movies are beautiful like art form for expressing like our this tiniest of sociological like just impulses like,
yeah,
and you can do that with any sort of like you could do that in ways you tell a story, that like the types of characters you use in said story, like you were saying, and like toe sucking.
Toe sucking, yeah,
is one of them.
Well, it's like
fetishes
like,
are something you see a lot of in movies.
This trope character that exists. It's like how you could be like, this character that exists in a sitcom, like basically the same exact type exists in another sitcom, and it's not that those two shows are like not creative enough to come up with their own idea of a character. It's just that like human beings are receptive to it. They recognize it. They see that character trope in real life and every day. So when they see it on TV, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like the same as when you're learning like a comedy medium, like when you're learning like how to do improv or how to write sketch. It's like, yeah, you could just like go ahead and do that, but like the reason why you like learn how is because there's ways that work better.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you can innovate and it's great when you do, but like there's really no, working within the medium works for a reason.
You know how often in like even in like in stand up or I mean, this applies to anything, but like you'll completely reject the status quo and just go out on your own and just start from scratch, which is a great way to start to do something, because you're building it from a completely just a total foundation, like a new foundation of understanding. Like you're not trying to adopt a skeleton from somebody else, like you're trying to build it. But as you go along, you think you're doing things in a completely new way than anyone else, but then you find out that the way that was, you know what I mean? Like the norm, like that actually is the best possible version of the thing you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But that's why it's good. I mean, it's still good to start doing your own thing. Like start off from like what you like and what you
Kitty's
want.
making some noises. I feel like the mic's gonna pick up. No, but you're exactly right. At least if you're coming from like a place of the story you want to tell and like the unique point of view or perspective you have.
Yeah.
Like using that as the prerequisite or like precursor to like also knowing like what people will recognize and be receptive to.
That's the thing, like that takes so many years to build, just like that, like to build your
POV,
your own POV, and like even understanding the things, like because a lot of the sociological I keep saying that, but like those words, like whatever those things are, I don't even, maybe there's like artifacts of civilization, like you can call them just artifacts.
Anthropological pursuits. Anthropological
But like
quandaries.
a lot of those things are you adopt a lot of those things. Like you adopt the point of view of some of the point of views that you see in like movies from the 2000s, and later on when you're trying to subvert the medium, you realize you're coming at it with the same point of view that made some of the movies
of the past
great.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you're trying to do it yourself, like in your own way. It's cool to just find your own personal biases and like the things you tend to want to talk about and include in your work.
Yeah. I'm going to put toe sucking in the first horror movie I make.
Seems like something you're interested in.
Negatively.
I'm
just to make it clear, I'm anti toe sucking, and I will take that hard stance, because why would toe sucking exist so frequently in the horror genre if that wasn't a fucking weird ass thing to be into? Get your eating mouth away from my walking feet. Like, what? Those two shouldn't mix. They should not mix. I also think that no one's feet or mouth is clean enough for those to be interacting.
Yeah.
Sorry, we just started. Once I get on toe sucking, I am
toe sucking where the person washes their feet and the other person brushes their teeth
and floss it
and immediately goes to toe sucking after. That's okay.
Yeah. That I can see that reality panning out just fine.
Yeah.
But as long as everyone gets a good wash, suds up. Man, what was your favorite part of The Ring?
Do you want to like hold it? Like it's. I think I hear you.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, guys, for the mic feedback.
I've been just like that.
Oh, smart. Okay.
See that
yeah.
But my favorite part, I just love the fact that it's raining
all the time.
Yeah.
It's Seattle, baby.
Yeah, I think that I like
it's
it
emo.
I like when it rains in movies. I just think it's pretty.
It sets the tone.
It puts me in a good place, in a good mood. I like that. And
Are you pro? Like, that's interesting. It's supposed to be like gloomy and bleak.
Yeah, I mean, it is like circumstantially. Sometimes I want the world of the movie to just knock it off, like with what they're trying to do, and I just want to
like, okay, get over yourself.
I just want to see these characters like.
You have such wonderful takes to have on a movie podcast because they're so. I'm like, do you like movies? I like don't
typically no.
I have a friend from college who is so critical of movies. He gives everything on Letterboxd like 2 stars max, and I'm like, do you even like this at this point? Like, why are you doing this?
I stopped giving
star ratings.
Star ratings for movies.
Yeah, and I'm a low baller on Letterboxd for sure.
Yeah, because I realize like if I go at a movie like wanting to rate it, I'm always gonna hate it because it's just how your mind works.
I think that makes sense.
I think it's idiotic because you either love every movie you see or you hate every movie you see. I very rarely meet someone who gives people are so biased with their movies. Like there's no use in saying this movie's good.
True.
This movie's bad. I think most movies I see, I feel like most people don't have a grasp on what a movie actually is, and which is fine because who the fuck does? But I very rarely see a movie where it's like the people making this put a lot of they see movies as like a consciousness, and like you're watching and it moves like water. It is just everything. Like it moves like seamlessly.
Yeah. So what you're saying is people's own biases and experiences make an objective viewing of a movie somewhat impossible.
It affects their objective filming of the movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Their
By the
personal
way,
biases.
I know you said you had to leave at 5 and it's 5:05.
Oh, I don't really have to leave. I might go to Glendale Room with you.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. I'll have to leave at some point because I have to actually write the material.
You haven't written the material?
Yeah, well, I have a show on Sunday that's supposed to be specific to mental health, so I kind of have to like it's a themed show, so I have to kind of like
I saw that.
yeah, I have to sort of like cobble together. Not that sounds like I'm not doing. It's gonna be good, but like I have to sort of like group together some bits and make them cohesive. Like, because I feel like I have
Bits you already have.
Because like I feel like I don't have like a like what I wouldn't normally be like, and this whole set is about mental health. I would like sprinkle them in. So I kind of feel like I need to like kind of like look through my notebook and like put together the material to one cohesive set.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Can't wait to see what you come up with.
I know. Well,
It's really isn't it delightful when you find little connections between
I know.
what
Well,
you write?
yeah. Amanda, who's the producer, was like, basically was like, I loved like being like, can you be on the show? Like, I love your material specifically about this. And I was like, okay, I guess that means I should do that for the show, which is fine. But I just have to like, it's different than being like, then you have a show and you're like, I'll do these bits tonight.
Right.
It's like, okay, these are the bits I have to do tonight. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to like impede on the deep discussion we were getting into about the objective viewing of movies. I just know that we both have
No, it's fine.
have stuff to do.
I was thinking about that. It's good that you.
Yeah,
brought it up.
we because I also felt that if we continued to talk, we would just end up down a completely a hole we can't dig ourselves out of for the
Hallmark of a good movie discussion.
is that your son
A lot of movie.
you suddenly end up at like Adam and Eve and
Yeah.
you're like, how did we get here?
Movie discussions
Men and
very
women.
gradually turn into like
How long have we been going?
weird meta philosophical quandaries that
Yeah. Well, I feel like
I
this is
don't
I feel as though this is a good place to stop.
okay.
Because I will say I love The Ring. I love that no one has to see me when they listen to this episode.
Same, yeah. This is great.
It's great. So thank you, Spliff Screeners, for bearing with us.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. I'm going to briefly check to see if anyone submitted a recommend. I don't think anyone did.
You wanna watch something that's not in the 2000s maybe, or do you want to keep with that?
We
theme?
can.
You want to keep, or do you want to keep with the theme of the 2000s?
No, we can.
Because I'd love to watch something that's like, that's
Old timey. Is that
Not-
what you're gonna say?
maybe not old timey, but like just something that
I'd say we should continue with the nostalgia,
nostalgia. Okay,
or
yeah,
like at
I'm
least
down.
like I would like to do something that's not
I'm down.
particularly recent.
Yeah.
Do you want to pick? Because I kind of
You ever
spearheaded
see-
The Ring.
You ever seen Hugo?
That is like not at all where I thought you were gonna. Hugo, the one with the clocks.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh my god. Sure, we can watch Hugo.
I don't want to watch it. I watched it too recently.
Okay.
I'd say
We could watch The Thing.
The Thing.
John Carpenter's 1982 horror classic, The Thing.
Okay.
Is it 1982? I don't know.
Well, The Thing.
We don't have to. It was just a suggestion. Sorry, I didn't mean to suggest something so stupid.
You know, I haven't seen really any of the slasher, like the 80s slasher movies. Like I've seen very few of them.
Well, The Thing isn't a slasher, so there's that to start.
It's not a slasher.
No.
It sounds okay.
But I do really love The Thing. Or we could watch, what if we watched Chucky?
I've never seen Chucky.
I think we should watch Child's Play. That's the name of
Child's
the movie.
Play? Okay.
And I am saying that because I already have plans to watch that movie with Ben. So knock out two and one.
Can I watch it unless it's like if it's like a date night type of thing, I don't want.
Yeah, well, we'll see, but I think that's
I don't know if like Child's Play
we'll
is
see.
like followed by a romantic dinner. Or
I don't know, but
if it's like a casual thing, I'd love to.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it would be cool to watch a movie with other people for once. I feel like I never do that.
I did like the immersion of watching The Ring alone in my room by myself, because basically my viewing experience for this movie is I got back from improv, I stopped at Taco Bell, I popped a 5 milligram edible, which at this point is really like taking a melatonin for me, and then just watched the movie, and then I went to bed.
Okay.
So I think we should watch Child's Play.
Okay.
I mean, why not lean into the spooky season of it all?
That is true. We are getting into that season.
The most beautiful time of the year.
I also, at some point in the future, would love to watch something that's not. It's not Before Sunrise. Like, it's not.
I
that
love
movie.
Before Sunrise, but
It's
yes,
not that movie.
We'll
but
find something.
It is like that movie.
Yeah.
Something like Richard Linklater, something like that. I love his stuff.
Yeah. Well, we did watch School of Rock.
We did already. Let's want to watch.
We'll find something. Well, we'll say for now, tentatively, Child's Play will be the next one, and I can almost guarantee that no one is listening to us right now.
It's so funny. Like, we don't have to decide at the end of each episode, because we're gonna release
the cat
this.
knocked over the water.
Ah, shit! All right, now we really have to
we
stop
really
this.
do have to go. Yeah. Anyway, stay tuned. Thank you for listening, everyone, and bearing with us as we adjust to a new format / regress to audio only.
Yeah, in a year, we're just gonna be screaming out of our balcony to a live audience.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.